Something that I think about pretty often is that if college was reasonably priced, I would have stayed in college forever. I love learning things. I love finding a passion for different subjects. I honestly would have just stayed in school if it wasn't so expensive and if the interest rates on student loans were incredibly predatory. Like, when I think of all the things that they have taken from us, I just get so upset. I just get so sad. But who needs college when you have Overly Sarcastic Productions? What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again. Today we are here to learn from my woman crush every day, Red. This is a miscellaneous myths video. It's about Astraea. I am going to go out on a limb here based on my very meager knowledge of other / ancient languages and say that Astraea is something related to stars, right? That sounds like it's about right, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm super excited. Miscellaneous Myths is definitely one of my favorite series that Overly Sarcastic Productions does. I have more than a couple actually, trope talks that I need to catch up on. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for those because I need to get back into those, especially because I'm planning on getting back into writing. So I'd love to see Red's breakdown of all of these tropes so I can see the pitfalls that I need to avoid. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are staying safe and sanitized. I'm super excited to see what this video has in store for us. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
I'm not an expert. This is one of my favorite things about myself. I love learning new things. I'm not so good at continuing to learn old things. When they coined that phrase about being a jack of all trades, master of none, they were talking about me. But even though I'm not an expert, being, as they say, in the sauce about Greek mythology for the better part of a decade has inadvertently given me something of a feel for the terrain.
I feel like you could safely call yourself an expert. Like, I appreciate the humility, you know, that's present here, but I feel like you could safely call yourself an expert.
So when I'm out in the wilds of the internet hunting down fun new stories to tell, sometimes I get a little bit of a whiff, you know? Just the faintest smell of bullshit. Every field of art has its forgeries, works that their creators thought wouldn't be impactful enough if they were presented on their own merits, so instead they have a whole historical context stapled onto them after the fact. This painting isn't just nice, it's a lost Da Vinci. This story isn't just a fun little tale, it's an ancient Native American legend.
Right.
This bite-sized anecdote isn't just a slice of good advice, it's an ancient Chinese proverb or something. There are so many of these, and they make me so mad. Not just because their supposed ancient origins are frequently blatantly chosen for their tropey exoticization to make them seem foreign and mystical and hard to contact the supposed source to corroborate, but mostly they make me mad because they're lies. They muddle an already extremely complicated field to research, and if I get duped by one, which has happened, I end up perpetuating misinformation. So I've developed a bit of a spidey sense for when a story feels a little too new to be true. The time-traveling goatfish we discussed back in the Zodiac video, too many bits of that story that just did not fit the tone of the classic Greek greats. The Greek goddess of torture and punishment that Tumblr made up for funsies smelled that spiral down notebook doodle OC a mile off. But
what? Tumblr did what?
But I'm not an expert. And that means sometimes I stumble into something that sounds too good to be true, and when I go digging, it turns out to be real. And that is such a rare joy for me that I cannot wait to tell you about this one. So today let's talk about Astraea, the goddess of the constellation Virgo, which is now available in our Crowdmade shop as the latest installment in our glow-in-the-dark Zodiac Enamel Pins collection. Get them while they're gettable. To start our journey, I'm gonna do the one thing you're never supposed to do. I'm gonna read you a few lines from Astraea's Wikipedia page. I just want you all to understand why I started off suspicious. Astraea is the virgin goddess of justice, innocence, purity, and precision.
That shit sound fake as hell. No, you right. That shit sound fake as hell.
Astraea, the celestial virgin, was the last of the immortals to live with humans during the Golden Age, one of the old Greek religion's 5 deteriorating ages of man. And last but not least, according to myth, Astraea will one day come to Earth, bringing with her the return of the utopian Golden Age of which she was the ambassador. So, this is fine. Everything here is totally plausible. Except it's got this vibe that a lot of fake lore, which is what it's called, which I love, shares, which is this sort of surprisingly modern set of tropes. For one thing, saying, Astraea's godly domain is extremely thematically coherent while still covering a decent amount of ground. A god of both justice and innocence makes a lot of sense. Those two things are connected, and looping in purity plays well with the rest of it too. The thing is, real mythologies frequently do not do that. Zeus is a god of the sky and storms, but he's also the god of divine hospitality and the maker of heroes. Poseidon is the god of the ocean and also earthquakes and horses. In Greek mythology, it's very common for gods to either have about 1 million seemingly unrelated divine characteristics, or to have one single concept as their entire deal. For instance, Eos is the goddess of the dawn, and that's basically all she does. But modern-day fictional deities in fantasy settings are purposefully written and world-built to cover a single, neatly partitioned slice of the universe, and they usually get given a tightly woven set of godly duties that all thematically resonate with one another, or a singular gimmick that gives them a nice, simple personality to play with. A quick scroll through the gods in D&D communicates that pretty cleanly. You want a god of justice? Human-shaped or dragon-shaped, we got you covered. You want a god of the sea? We got like 3 of them. If you don't mind a bit of a crowd, we can bring in all our gods of war. So Astraea's extremely thematically clean divine domain was a little bit sus, and the thing about her being the last immortal to still live with humanity was also, to my eyes, suspiciously modern.
Because it sounds like a fan fiction. It sounds like something somebody is gonna write in their book. It doesn't sound real. This entire Wikipedia entry sounds like somebody made it up. No, that I completely understand why Red was suspicious, because this is a very fanfiction.net, very AO3. You know what I mean? Like, you feel me? You guys feel me? You get it. Y'all understand.
It implied, again, some hard world building that just generally isn't found in classical mythology, which was built up slowly over the course of thousands of years of changing generations of people. In Greek mythology, the gods aren't walled off from humanity. The only time a no interference clause comes up explicitly is in the Trojan War, and even then, it's constantly ignored. Throughout the entire rest of the corpus of Greek mythology, the gods are constantly dealing with humans, popping in to help out directly, or sire more kids, or spawn a few monsters in case everyone was getting a little too cozy. So this idea that the rest of the gods had dipped out of the mortal world early on, while Astraea, this pure, wonderful goddess of goodness, had lived with humanity through their waning morals, but had eventually reached her breaking point and reluctantly turned her back, it felt, to me, very unusual. In fact, what it really felt like was reminiscent of some of the stuff Tolkien got up to in the Silmarillion. That's right, bitches, I've actually read it now. It's fine. Anyway, I was getting big Fall of Numenor energy off this bit, and I wanted to know more. So, of course, the first thing I did was go looking at the sources, and to my genuine surprise, all of this stuff is mythologically supported. So it probably had Tolkien energy because Tolkien had read the same things I did. Aratus's Phenomena, a book of constellations and general astronomy information written between 300-ish and 250 BCE, lays it out pretty clearly.
It is star related. Didn't I say Astraea sound like it's star related? I know things.
With a few bonus details provided by Ovid's Metamorphoses a few centuries later. Astraea, an immortal goddess, makes the unusual choice to live among humans in their earliest days. A pastoralist golden age where the land is bountiful, conflict is non-existent, and everything is wonderful all the time. Hilariously, one explicit way the writers communicate that this is a simple age of boundless idealism is that nobody has even considered building a boat. Don't go into the ocean, everyone! That's where the sin lives. Ovid adds the detail that this golden age was when the Titans ruled the world under Saturn, aka Kronos, father of Zeus. Who of course overthrows Kronos and ushers in the Age of the Gods, which embarrassingly is considered a downgrade from a golden age to a silver one. Zeus nixes the eternal springtime and introduces a seasonal breakup, forcing the fledgling humans to start constructing homes to shelter during extreme temperatures and invent agriculture to not starve.
Can't be naked no more.
Astraea's not super happy with the events of the Silver Age, and she's disheartened that humanity is becoming increasingly more conflicted. Her primary godly move is to advocate for mercy and understanding when justice is called for, but she's not happy with the Silver Age, and she likes its sequel even less. The Bronze Age, quickly followed by the Iron Age, sees humanity discover the evils of war and money, which from Aratus's perspective is just war with extra steps. Disgusted with humanity's newfound penchant for violence and, even worse, seafaring, Astraea finally turns her back on humanity and retreats to the heavens above.
You just left us here like that? You could have took us with you. Or somebody, you could have took me with you, like, reach through time and, no? Okay.
Becoming the constellation Virgo. And that's all fine and dandy. Ovid's source alone is good enough for me. He may be biased, but this isn't the kind of story he tended to dubiously embellish from nothing. And Aratus's source just adds even more legitimacy, proving that Astraea wasn't just a Roman concept and dated back to ancient Greece. Plus, these stories have some fascinating implications about the vibes the writers were living through. Aratus and Ovid both were firmly of the opinion that they were living in the shitty, terrible Iron Age. The world had once existed existed in this beautiful, primeval, pastoralist state where the land provided everything humanity needed without requiring any work. But a divine overhaul and a tragic downfall into petty selfishness and greed had left humanity constantly at war with itself.
Just goes to show that even way back then, right? Even all the way back then, they still were like, damn, back in the good old days. They said back in the good old days, bro. That's crazy. That's nuts. Also, I'm very interested in this theme of like boats and the ocean and the sea kind of being like a source of discontent and evil. I'm very curious about that. I wonder if how much that ties into. I'm just curious to know more about that.
Miserable and hungry and cruel and sailing. Are there no depths to which we won't sink?
Exactly.
And there's a lot here that I think is super interesting. Like, again, getting back to the trope perspective, when a modern Western writer wants to communicate that an empire is unimaginably powerful and decadent and wealthy, they make it look like Rome. Aesthetically, we associate it with an empire at the height of its glory. And the writers from that civilization were like, this is disgusting. I wish we could go back to eating berries in the woods. Amazing. I guess the grass is always greener on the other side of the course of empires. But okay, we've got that settled. Astraea was a real deity, she was associated with justice and innocence and purity and stuff, but it was really that last bit about Astraea that made me profoundly suspicious.
Coming back.
You know, the prophecy. See, there are some mythological prophecies that perpetuate out into the modern day, but there are not many of them. Most of them take the form of this true king is buried in this mountain and he will rise again in his country's greatest hour of need, which is conveniently self-non-fulfilling. When, in response to whatever current crisis is rearing its ugly head, the dead guy fails to bust out of his mausoleum with sword in hand, it just kicks the greatest hour of need down the road and implies he won't wake up until things find a way to get even worse. So these prophecies can hang around in cultural perpetuity without too much trouble. In myths, prophecies are usually short-term tragedy bait, whimsical little bites of the near future that only exist to doom their hapless protagonist into meeting their destiny on the road they take to avoid it. Prophecies are one of those things that modern writers cannot get enough of, but they are, in my experience, very unusual in mythology. I mean, you can tell, because I haven't used that "the prophecy" musical sting joke in 8 real years. That's a good bit, and I just never get the chance. And
has it been that long? Damn, I did not realize it had been that long.
And the reason why this mythical figure has an ongoing prophecy about them is especially suspicious is because it's the kind of thing people love co-opting to support whatever social, cultural, or political agenda they think they can most convincingly staple it to. Especially one as vague as her return will signify the dawn of a new golden age. Bitch, that could mean anything. But shockingly, this bit is also real. Virgil's 4th eclogue says it in plain Latin.
Now dawns the last age of Cumaean song. Once more the circling centuries begin. The Virgin reappears and Saturn reigns. From heaven descends a novel progeny. Now to this child in whom the iron race throughout the world shall cease and turn to gold.
Virgin Justice, aka Astraea, returns, and with her the reign of Saturn, again Kronos, and an accompanying golden age. Even more than that, Virgil's funky little prophecy, credited to the Cumaean Sibyl, says that this ringing in of a new golden era will be accompanied by the birth of some amazing kid who will personally lead this world to paradise. And he was coincidentally writing this around 40 BCE, so within a few scant decades, this little tidbit was going to reach its first pile of people really eager to explain how it totally applied to their personal choice of Messiah. The popular read, for the record, is that Virgil was actually writing about the predicted future kid of Mark Antony and Augustus's sister Octavia, a union that would have handily stitched 2/3 of the triumvirate back together, but this is what happens when your prophecies are vague. They get Jesused, which, not to criticize, I feel like a good oracle should have probably seen coming. And it somehow managed to get even vaguer. See, once the Renaissance started and there was a whole crop of powerful queens popping up across Europe, it became extremely hip and cool to conflate every single one of them with Astraea, returned in the form of this one lady to usher in that new golden age everyone was talking about, and to prove conclusively that their empire was just as amazing and wonderful as the great empires of the ancient past had been in the glory days. The Holy Roman Empire hasn't fallen off, guys. It's just as good as it used to be. And now it's got holy in front of it. Anyway, the short of it is, I was right to be suspicious of this prophecy thing, not because it wasn't a real part of the early mythology, but because its prominence in the story of Astraea is 100% the consequence of it being so politically and religiously useful so many times.
It was used as propaganda. So like the fact that it all fits into these neat little boxes is, that makes sense.
which is also dishonest, but the classy kind of dishonest that cites its sources and makes me even angrier.
There is a much larger conversation to be had about fake lore and archaeological forgery by much more qualified people than me, but it's always so interesting and infuriating to look into. And since the subject is myths and folklore, which are largely understood to be not factually non-fictional, I do sometimes see genuine confusion where people are like, but what's the difference between me making up a Greek myth now and an ancient Greek person making up a Greek myth 2,500 years ago? They're both just stories we're telling. The difference is one of you is lying about who made it. If you paint something really good, that's fine, right up until you sign it, made by Vermeer, and send it for $1 million. Also, the internet is really, really good at accelerating cytogenesis, which can turn fun and games original fiction into fake lore just because someone took the original story out of its context, which happens so freaking often. And I'll talk about this at the end of the video. Someone half remembers something they read about an obscure goddess and drops it onto Tumblr as a fun fact without remembering that the place they picked up that information from was somebody's 800-word drabble fake in 2006, and now someone's edgy OC is that time Tumblr tried to fake a goddess. Anyway, that new golden age is coming any century now. Yeah, if she could do it in my lifetime, that would be fan-frickin-tastic. Would really love that, Astraea, please. So this is not to talk about, or this is to talk about fake lore, but I'm going to talk about fake lore not in terms of mythology, but in terms of, okay, this is going to be so stupid. This is going to be so dorky. You guys are going to make fun of me. In terms of Harry Potter, okay? First and foremost, would just like to remind you guys that it is fuck J.K. Rowling all day, every day. I do not like that lady. In fact, I hate that lady. I hope she trips and falls on 1,000 Legos and can't get up and just has to roll around on the Legos until her skin falls off, okay? Now that we've got that part out of the way. That was very Lindsay Nicole of me. People take, you see this, not just Harry Potter, right? But Harry Potter's the thing I have in my mind. You see people take their fan fiction of a series and turn it into actual lore, right? But then they'll argue with you about the series as if that lore that they made up from their fan fiction is real. And like, it gets, like, Harry Potter is probably the biggest example, but you can see it with any popular work of fiction. And it's just so both fascinating and infuriating to watch. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, Jegulus is not real. For those of you guys who don't know, there's a group of people who ship James Potter, and Regulus Black together. And they're like, well, you can draw from, no, you cannot. No, you cannot. No, you can't. Okay? And I understand that obviously that is very different from, you know, making up a Greek goddess, because that's insanity. But like the same principles of like people not knowing where their source material is coming from, or knowing and lying about it. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why you would do that, because there's so much source material. You could just find something. You know what I mean? Or you could say, hey, I made up this thing. Isn't that great? Isn't this fun? Let's expound upon it. Like, I don't understand the point of lying about it. I don't understand that. So, anywhoozins, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. And other than that, peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.